The Grand Galactic Council was the most powerful gathering in the universe, where mighty empires, ancient civilizations, and the rulers of countless star systems gathered to discuss the fate of the galaxy. Among them were species that had mastered space travel for millions of years, beings who lived on hundreds of planets, and rulers whose fleets could block out the light of stars. They sat in their towering halls of polished metal and glowing energy, watching as the representatives of the youngest spacefaring race stepped forward. The humans had finally been invited to speak, and they came with dignity, their heads held high. But before they could even begin, the laughter started. It was soft at first, a few amused chuckles, but then it spread across the massive chamber like a wave. The council members whispered to one another, their voices filled with mockery. "A one-planet species?" scoffed a towering insectoid emperor whose kind had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. "How adorable! They still live on the same rock where they evolved. Have they even conquered their own moon properly yet?" His laughter was joined by a chorus of others, each voice adding to the humiliation. A reptilian warlord, his scales gleaming under the council's artificial light, leaned forward with a smirk. "Tell us, humans, do you not dream of the stars? Have you no ambition? Or is it that your little world is so comfortable that you never wish to leave?" More laughter followed, a cruel sound that echoed across the massive hall. The humans stood silent, their faces unreadable. The youngest of the delegation clenched his fists, his pride burning, but the leader of the human representatives simply smiled. His name was Ambassador Reynolds, and unlike the aliens surrounding him, he did not see their laughter as humiliation, he saw it as ignorance. He stepped forward, his voice calm yet firm. "You believe we are weak because we live on one planet," he said, his words cutting through the laughter like a blade. "But tell me, lords of the stars, how many of you could survive on our world?" The laughter faded slightly, replaced by confusion. Reynolds continued, his voice unwavering. "You, who live on planets with gentle climates, where storms are rare and the air is always safe to breathe. You, whose ancestors spread across the stars before they even had to fight for survival. Tell me, how many of your worlds have volcanoes that can blacken the sky for months? How many of your planets have hurricanes that tear through cities in a single night? Do your people rebuild their homes after earthquakes, after floods, after wildfires? Have you ever lived in a place where even the land itself shifts beneath your feet?" The council chamber was silent now, the once amused rulers beginning to listen. "Our world is not kind. It is not gentle. Earth is a place of chaos, of endless challenges. Our ancestors did not have the luxury of spreading across a dozen planets, picking only the safest ones. We had one world, and it tried to kill us every single day." A cold realization was beginning to form in the minds of the council members. They had mocked humanity for its small reach, for its lack of expansion, but they had never considered what kind of strength could be forged in such a place. Reynolds took another step forward, his eyes scanning the room. "We did not conquer the stars as easily as you did. We had to earn every piece of progress with blood, sweat, and fire. Our history is one of war and disaster, of rebuilding and adapting. We have tamed our planet, but it still reminds us every day that we are only borrowing our place on it. And yet, despite all this, we did not die. We did not fall. We thrived." The insectoid emperor who had mocked them earlier shifted uncomfortably, his many eyes blinking rapidly. That is only survival," he said, though his voice lacked the certainty it had before. "But survival is not enough to rule the stars." Reynolds smiled again, but this time there was something colder behind it. "No," he agreed. "Survival is not enough. But it is the foundation of something greater. When we finally leave our world for good, when we spread beyond the stars, we will not be soft rulers of peaceful planets. We will not be children of easy worlds. We will be something else. Something stronger. Something unbreakable." The silence in the hall was no longer one of amusement. It was something heavier, something uncertain. The aliens who had ruled the galaxy for so long had never feared humans before. But as they listened to the words of a species forged by an unforgiving world, They began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. Because one day, these one-planet wonders would come for the stars. And when they did, nothing would stop them. When the alien delegation landed on Earth, they expected to see an ordinary world, one of the countless planets scattered across the galaxy, each with its own climate, geography, and life. They had seen many habitable worlds before, and in their minds, Earth would be no different. To them, humans were an anomaly, a species stubbornly clinging to a single planet instead of expanding across the stars. They had laughed at humanity's inability to spread beyond their home, believing it to be a weakness. But as their ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their arrogance began to waver. What they saw from the sky was unlike anything they had encountered in the vastness of space. Towering mountains with jagged peaks, piercing the clouds like ancient guardians, stretched endlessly across continents. Below them, immense oceans churned with a restless energy, their dark waters hiding secrets even humans had yet to uncover. Thick forests, their canopies dense and untamed, spread over the land like a living sea, their colors shifting with the seasons in a way that seemed almost magical. It was a world that pulsed with raw, untamed life, every inch of it filled with movement, change, and power. The aliens, who came from planets of stable, controlled environments, were unprepared for the sheer chaos of Earth's natural forces. As they landed, a sudden gust of wind slammed into their ship, rattling its structure with a force they had not anticipated. Their homeworlds had predictable weather, carefully maintained by advanced technology, but Earth was different. Here, nature followed no rules but its own. It was unpredictable, wild, and uncontrollable. They had barely stepped onto the surface when the sky darkened, heavy storm clouds rolling in like an advancing army. Within moments, lightning split the heavens, followed by the deafening roar of thunder. Rain fell in thick sheets, drenching the landscape in an instant. The delegation scrambled for shelter, their once confident expressions now filled with unease. They had never experienced anything like this before. The storm passed just as quickly as it had arrived. The aliens were left staring at the sky, stunned by the sheer ferocity of the planet. A human guide, who had been watching them with amusement, finally spoke. "Welcome to Earth," he said with a smirk. "You haven't seen anything yet?" Over the next few days, the delegation was taken on a journey across the planet, and with each passing moment, their awe deepened. They saw deserts where the sun blazed mercilessly, turning the ground into an inferno during the day, only for the temperature to plummet to freezing levels at night. They witnessed tornadoes spiraling across open fields, their winds strong enough to tear apart anything in their path. In the farthest reaches of the planet, they observed glaciers so vast and ancient that they seemed to hold the memories of time itself. Even the peaceful landscapes held an intensity they could not ignore. The forests were alive with the sounds of creatures great and small, each locked in an eternal struggle for survival. The rivers carved their own paths through the land. And then there were the volcanoes, titanic mountains of fire and stone that could, with a single eruption, turn day into night and alter the course of history. The aliens were no longer laughing. Instead, they began to understand. Earth was not just a planet, it was a crucible, a place of both unimaginable beauty and relentless danger. It was a world that did not allow weakness, a world that tested its inhabitants every single day. And yet, despite everything, humanity had not only survived but thrived. They had learned to predict the storms, to build structures that could withstand the quakes, to channel the rivers, to navigate the oceans. They had fought against the elements and emerged stronger each time. Unlike the alien civilizations, who had always known comfort, humans had been forced to adapt to an unforgiving world. They had learned to respect the forces of nature, but never to fear them. One night, as the delegation stood on the edge of a towering cliff, watching the waves crash against the shore with an unstoppable rhythm, one of the alien leaders finally spoke. "We thought you were weak," he admitted, his voice quieter than before, "because you stayed on this one world. But now I see the truth. Your planet, it is alive in a way we have never known. It has shaped you." The human beside him simply nodded. "Earth is not an easy home," he said, "but it is ours. It made us who we are. And when we leave it, when we finally step beyond its skies for good, we will take its lessons with us. Out there, in the stars, we will not just survive, we will conquer. The alien said nothing, but the fear in his eyes told the human that he understood. They had misjudged humanity. They had thought Earth was a prison that kept humans trapped, but now they saw the truth. It was a forge. And when the time came for humanity to rise beyond it, the alien delegation had seen many worlds and their time planets covered in endless jungles, others with frozen wastelands stretching beyond the horizon, and even worlds where the air was so thick with moisture that rain never stopped falling. But none of them had prepared them for Earth. They had come expecting a fragile species, one that had never ventured far beyond its own world, a race that lacked the strength to claim the stars. But after witnessing the sheer chaos of Earth's nature, the relentless storms, the towering mountains, the roaring oceans, and the unpredictable climate, they began to realize they had made a mistake. Earth was not a place of comfort. It was a battlefield where only the strong could endure. And humanity had not just endured. It had thrived. They traveled across human cities, each one built in defiance of nature itself. Skyscrapers stood tall against hurricane-force winds, their foundations deep enough to resist even the mightiest earthquakes. Bridges stretched across mighty rivers, built to withstand raging floods. Entire nations had carved civilizations into deserts, made homes in frozen tundras, and even settled on islands constantly threatened by volcanic eruptions. The aliens had always believed that true power came from the size of one's empire, from the number of planets a species could conquer. But here, on this single, unforgiving world, they saw something else: true resilience. They watched as humans moved through their daily lives, seemingly unbothered by the natural disasters that struck without warning. In one city, a storm ripped through the streets, bringing down power lines and flooding roads. But within hours, people were already rebuilding, clearing debris, fixing what had been broken as if it were just another part of life. On another continent, a massive earthquake shattered buildings, yet before the dust even settled, rescue teams were already pulling survivors from the rubble, their faces determined, their hands steady. There was no panic, no surrender, only adaptation, only the unbreakable will to keep moving forward. The aliens who had come from civilizations that had perfected planetary control could not understand this mindset. Their own worlds were stable, their environments carefully regulated by advanced technology. They had never needed to struggle against nature, never had to fight for survival on a daily basis. Their people had grown comfortable, relying on machines to maintain balance. But humans had never known that luxury. For them, survival was not something granted, it was something earned. They had learned to fight against the odds, to overcome whatever challenges their planet threw at them. And in doing so, they had forged a strength that no other species in the galaxy possessed. One of the alien leaders, a being whose species had long ruled over dozens of star systems, stood atop a ruined structure that was already being rebuilt. He turned to the human beside him, a soldier who had survived countless battles not against other men, but against the elements of Earth itself. "We have always believed that expansion is the key to strength," he replied. "We had no second home to run to, so we had to become strong enough to survive here, no matter what. And that strength is something we carry with us, wherever we go." The alien looked at the workers repairing the city, at the civilians helping each other without hesitation, at the unwavering determination in their eyes. He had always believed that his empire was unshakable, that his people were superior because they had conquered the stars. But now, as he stood among the humans, he wondered if his own world had faced the same relentless trials as Earth. Would his people have survived? Would they have stood back up after every disaster, after every setback? He was no longer sure. That night, as the alien delegation gathered to discuss what they had witnessed, an uneasy silence hung in the air. "They are not like us," one of them finally admitted. "We have grown soft in our comfort. They have grown strong in their struggle." Another nodded. "When they finally leave this world for good, they will not just spread across the stars. They will take them." The leaders of the galaxy had always thought that humanity was limited, that by being confined to one world, they had fallen behind. But now, they understood the truth. Earth had not held humanity back. It had shaped them into something far more dangerous. A species that had been forced to fight from the moment it had risen from the dust. One that had never known peace, never known true safety. They were not like the other civilizations of the galaxy. They were something else entirely. And for the first time in history, the rulers of the stars felt fear not of humanity's present, but of what they would one day become. The Grand Galactic Council had always mocked humanity. To the vast empires of the stars, Earth was nothing more than an isolated world, its people trapped by the limits of their own solar system. Every great civilization in the galaxy had spread across countless planets, colonizing entire star systems, reshaping worlds to suit their needs. But humanity? Humanity remained on just one planet, confined to a single home, unable to break free from the gravity of its birth world. The aliens laughed, calling them primitive, calling them weak. They believed that true power came from expansion, from the ability to control many worlds. But they had never asked why humanity had remained on Earth for so long. They had never questioned what kind of species could survive for thousands of years on a planet as chaotic, as unpredictable, as brutal as Earth. And when they finally did, it was already too late. The first time the alien war fleets entered the Sol system, they expected an easy victory. They had conquered hundreds of worlds before, crushing weaker civilizations with superior firepower and overwhelming numbers. Earth, they believed, would fall just as easily. But as they approached the blue planet, their sensors began detecting something strange, something they had never encountered before. Unlike other species, humans had not built fragile colonies across the stars. They had not spread themselves thin across dozens of planets, relying on scattered outposts for survival. Instead, they had focused everything on a single world, fortifying it beyond imagination. Massive orbital defenses surrounded Earth, hidden beneath layers of electronic warfare, so advanced that even the most sophisticated alien scanners struggled to detect them. The planet itself was a fortress, its people battle-hardened by generations of surviving nature's wrath. Every inch of Earth had been shaped by struggle, by the need to endure against an unforgiving environment. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, humanity had survived them all. And now, they would survive this too. When the first alien warships fired, they expected to see cities burn. Instead, their attacks were met with counterfire so precise, so devastating, that entire fleets were wiped out in minutes. Human warships, smaller than the massive dreadnoughts of the alien empires, moved with terrifying efficiency, using strategies no other species had ever dared to attempt. They struck with precision, disappearing into asteroid fields, using the gravity of planets to slingshot themselves into unpredictable attack patterns. Their technology was not the most advanced, but their tactics were something far deadlier. They adapted. Every battle, every skirmish, every engagement, the humans learned, adjusted, evolved. The aliens, used to fighting enemies who relied on brute force, had never encountered anything like it. They had assumed that because humanity had never left its home world, it had no experience in war. But they had failed to understand the most important truth about Earth. Humanity had been at war from the very beginning, not with other species, but with their own planet. They had battled starvation, disease, natural disasters, and extinction events that had wiped out countless other life forms. Every generation had been forged by struggle, each war only making them stronger, more efficient, more ruthless. They were not a species that needed an empire to prove their strength. They were the empire, contained within one world, perfected by countless years of hardship. As the battle raged on, the alien commanders began to realize their mistake. Humanity was not weak because it had stayed on one planet. It was dangerous because it had survived on one planet for so long. While other species had expanded into the stars, relying on technology to shape gentle, controlled worlds, humans had learned to live in chaos. Their strength was not in their numbers, not in the size of their fleets, but in their minds, in their will to endure. The aliens had never feared death the way humans did. They had never faced extinction so many times that it had become a familiar shadow. But humans? They had lived on the brink of destruction for their entire history. And now, When faced with an enemy from the stars, they fought with the same desperation, the same ferocity that had allowed them to survive for millennia. One by one, the alien fleets fell. Their massive warships, designed to conquer primitive worlds, were no match for a species that had spent centuries mastering the art of war. The Grand Galactic Council, watching from their distant homeworlds, could not believe what they were witnessing. How could a species that had never colonized another planet be this strong? How could a civilization with no interstellar empire defeat the greatest military forces in the galaxy? But then, the answer became clear. Humanity had never needed to leave Earth. Because Earth itself had been their greatest battlefield, their harshest teacher, their deadliest training ground. While other species had sought comfort in expansion, humans had grown powerful by surviving the impossible. As the last alien warship burned in the darkness of space, a message was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. A single sentence, spoken in countless languages, carrying a warning that would be remembered for generations. We are humans, and we were forged by the only world that ever mattered. The laughter of the galaxy had turned to silence. The species they had once mocked had proven itself stronger than all of them combined. And now, as the surviving alien leaders trembled in fear, they realized the terrifying truth: humanity had never been confined by their planet. They had been shaped by it. And now, the galaxy belonged to them. The galactic empires had ruled for thousands of years, spreading their influence across the stars, conquering, trading, and dictating the laws of the cosmos. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, each one either bending the knee or being crushed under the weight of superior technology and numbers. And then there was Earth, a single planet, isolated in the dark void, home to a species that had never expanded beyond its own solar system. The great rulers of the galaxy laughed at the thought of humans being anything more than a minor curiosity, a primitive race confined to their world by their own limitations. But the moment humanity stepped beyond its cradle, the laughter stopped. The first true meeting between humanity and the Galactic Council was supposed to be a simple event, diplomatic, perhaps even condescending. The alien representatives had expected the humans to come with wide eyes, eager to beg for alliances, for protection, for guidance from the great civilizations of the stars. But instead, they found themselves facing something completely different. The humans did not bow. They did not beg. They stood tall, their eyes calm and unwavering, as if they had already seen the worst the universe had to offer. And in that moment, an unsettling realization crept into the minds of the council members: humanity was not afraid. For centuries, fear had been the currency of power among the stars. The strongest empires ruled through intimidation, through the knowledge that they could wipe out entire planets if they chose to. But humanity had evolved in a world that offered no mercy. They had faced extinction more times than any other species, had survived wars, disasters, and hardships beyond comprehension. They had looked death in the eye so many times that it had become nothing more than an old companion. To them, fear was not a weakness. It was a challenge. And the galaxy had never before encountered a species that thrived on challenges. When the first conflicts arose, the Council believed that humanity would break like all the others. They sent fleets to intimidate them, to remind them of their place. But those fleets never returned. The humans did not fight like the other species, did not rely on brute force or sheer numbers. They fought like survivors, like predators who had spent their entire existence sharpening their instincts against an unforgiving world. Their ships moved with unnatural precision. Their strategies evolved with terrifying speed. Their warriors refused to surrender even when outnumbered 100-1. And as the battles raged on, the once mighty rulers of the galaxy found themselves experiencing something they had never known before: fear. Fear, because no matter how many fleets they sent, humanity never wavered. Fear, because every loss only made them stronger. Fear, because their threats meant nothing to a species that had already endured worse. And then, slowly, that fear turned into something else: respect. Because as much as the other civilizations feared humanity's strength, they could not ignore their resilience, their loyalty, their unwavering will to stand together. They saw the way humans fought, not just for power, but for each other. They saw how, even in victory, they showed mercy when none was expected. And they began to understand that humanity did not seek to rule the galaxy through domination. They sought something far more dangerous. They sought to earn their place. The Council, once so confident in their superiority, now watched in uneasy silence as humanity continued to grow, not through conquest, but through sheer, undeniable presence. They were no longer seen as weaklings to be mocked, nor as a threat to be eliminated. They were seen as equals, as warriors, as survivors. The rulers of the cosmos, who had once dismissed them as nothing, now spoke their names with caution, with admiration, and with a respect that could only be earned through fire and blood. In the vast darkness of space, power had always belonged to those who could command fear. But humanity had done something no other species had ever achieved. They had turned fear into respect, and in doing so, they had changed the balance of the cosmos forever.